If you're curious about becoming a data analyst, then this video is for you. Today, we're going to talk about the most common questions that I've been asked as a data analyst on what it takes to become a data analyst. What's going on, guys? Thank you for clicking on this video. For those of you that are new, my name is Dan, and I'm an entry-level data analyst. I've been in this role for just over a year now, and my channel is all about my progression as a data analyst, and I'm just going to talk a little bit today about my process of becoming a data analyst and some of the things that I learned along the way. And I got questions here that I've been asked from people through my channel on YouTube, through my LinkedIn, and on Instagram. And these seem to be the most common types of questions that people are curious about. So today we're just going to walk through them one at a time, and hopefully I can give you guys some good information that helps you guys get what you're looking for. So by far, the first question that you have to start with is, what is a data analyst? And the simplest answer that I can give, it is someone who works with data in order to answer a question and to solve problems. Now, data analysis is a very broad term. It is basically anything that is the process of working with data and making decisions with it. And so you can see that across any type of industry. You can see it in common, small town businesses. You can see it in major sports networks. You can see it in pharmaceutical testing. You can see there's so many places where there are problems that need to be solved and questions that need answered. And people have found that the best way to do that is to hire people like data analysts to see what is going on in the data, structure it in a way to analyze it in a way that makes sure that the questions that they have and the problems that they need solved can either be fixed, can be answered, or can find ways to answer other questions that go along with it. So as an example, for me, I work at a pharmaceutical testing company where my job is to make sure that before the labs get their testing done, is that when the data comes in for them, that it is structured and organized in a way that all they have to do is crunch the numbers and it comes out to the analysis that they're supposed to. And that way, everything is organized and cleaned in a way when they go to present it to the clients, it's all right there for them and it answers their questions in an efficient and effective manner. Okay, so moving right along, next question that I have is, what skill sets do I need as a data analyst? And I think that the three big ones are problem solving, the ability to work in a team, and an ability to stay organized. Now, with problem solving, that's kind of a no-brainer. The whole point of the job is to solve problems. But so the biggest thing is you're going to have a lot of small problems that you're going to need to find in a large data set. And so the biggest thing is being able to effectively use your technical skills to start with the smallest problems and work towards the bigger problems. Because one of the hardest things about data analyst's job is that any small error can affect the overall process in a big way. So attention to detail, problem solving, I think kind of go hand in hand because of the amount of issues that you're going to deal with as a data analyst. And speaking personally, the biggest thing that I have issues with is when data comes in, it is often unorganized and it is often missing data. It is often we're given unclear directions from the clients. So there are a lot of things that you're going to have to work on. That is just more than just looking at numbers. You're going to have to work with project managers. You're going to have to work with other people in your team to help solve these problems. And so that kind of builds on the next point of being able to work in a team. Is there's not going to be many jobs where you as a data analyst are only going to be working on a job yourself. You're often going to work in teams, and you're often going to work on projects either together or back and forth with other people. So at my job, we have a small group that is particularly for one lane of our group. And what we often do is we work on projects individually, but then we also have to get our stuff reviewed before it can be submitted. And one of the things with that too is if you do run into issues or you do run into problems that you're not familiar with, you can work with the people in your group and collaborate them to help you get to the point where you need to. And then obviously organization is probably the biggest part of being a data analyst, because after you clean your data and after it is put together, the biggest thing is making sure that it is organized in a way to answer the problems directly. So often you have a large data set and you don't really know what to do with it. So the organization part is the most important part because that's what sets up the analysis. And that's what sets up the presentation of answering those questions. So you really have to be good at taking notes. You got to be really good at communicating your notes to your other team members and to the people that you work with, whether it's project managers or business analysts or just your management group in general. You have to be able to have everything readily available. That way you can work on projects in an efficient and effective way. Okay, so then along with that, I get asked, what are these technical skills that data analysts commonly use? And obviously the most common ones that you're going to see, and you can see this online through YouTube, whatever, is that it's going to be SQL, Excel, Python, and Tableau. Those are what I would say the beginner introductory level type skill sets are. Those are the most commonly used, especially in the early phases of being a data analyst. So for me personally, working at a pharmaceutical company, since we work with labs, we actually use what's called a LIMS system, so Laboratory Information and Management System, which basically is our own program that helps us organize, clean, structure data. So you're going to see a lot of industries like that have their own structure, their own programs in place. And so for those, it's a little bit tricky because obviously there isn't as much training and isn't as much projects out there that you can work on to directly go those skills. But that's why you focus on the SQL, the Excel, the Python, and Tableau, is because that kind of gives you a little bit of the different types of variations, whether it's data organization specific like Excel, or visualization specific like Tableau, computer coding specific like Python. Those, if you hit a little bit of all the different areas along the data analysis structure, and you can show and demonstrate those technical skills in those particular systems, that usually can translate to whatever the specific system that your company or future company can use. Okay, then I'm going to move on to the next question, which I get this one pretty frequently in my Instagram and my LinkedIn, which is, how did I get my job? And I will say that networking is a huge part of getting into the data analysis world. And as a introverted person, I was not very good at networking, so this was something that I had to work on. So for me, what I ended up doing, and on top of applying for jobs through job portals like LinkedIn and Indeed, was on LinkedIn, I would message recruiters that were posting jobs individually and throw in my resume, give a little description of what I was looking for, and I would try to reach out that way. And that is actually how I ended up getting my job. Was a recruiter came back to me, was like, "Hey, I'm actually looking for this other role that I'm just about to post. Is this something that you'd be interested in?" And I reached out, said yes. They set me up with an interview. Now, for them, it was a recruiting agency, so I did have to go on a contract to hire through my company. It was a 6-month contract, and for me, thankfully, I did a good job, and I got hired right after my 6 months. So that was I didn't, obviously going into becoming a data analyst, that was not something that I was used to. I never had a contract to hire before. That's definitely a newer thing for me, but that is something that is out there that could be a potential for you guys out there. So, but yeah, I put my job applications out there through Indeed, through LinkedIn, and I did get some results. It is kind of a what's the term? I think it's called like oh man, I'm drawing a blank. Now, obviously, it's difficult in the job application world to just throw out hundreds and hundreds of applications and only get a couple of answers, but that kind of is just the name of the game. And through my resume and through my portfolio, I did get a couple of answers. I think I had 3 interviews with 3 different companies. One of the companies that I was looking to hire for also had a technical meeting where basically I had to go, and through a meeting, I had to do an assignment with them and show off my technical skill. I think for that one particularly, it was Excel and Tableau. And so that's something that you can look for as the technical interviews. And if you guys go on YouTube, there is a ton of stuff about how to set yourself up for technical interviews. But that kind of goes into the next question I have is, what does the interview process look like? And for me, the interview process was pretty simple. Most of your entry level jobs are going to be focusing more, not so much on your past experiences and the projects that you have. It's more about those soft skills that I talked about earlier on, which is the problem solving, team organization. Those are the things that they're going to look for, because obviously you don't have the background or the technical skills going into an entry level job. So the biggest thing you have to be able to demonstrate is how do you show that you're organized? How do you show that you are good at problem solving? How do you work in a team? So for me, I came from food service management before being a data analyst. So one of the advantages that I had going into an entry level position was that I already could show and demonstrate that I had problem solving abilities, organizational abilities, and the ability to work in and actually run a team. So that was one of the things I think was beneficial to me and why I got job opportunities early for an entry level position was because even though I did have some technical skills and I was able to show that in my portfolio and resume, the biggest thing that I did have going for me was that I really show the soft skills based on my past experience. And so in the interview process, the biggest thing that you have to understand is that they're looking for, do you qualify and are you a fit for this team? So I think one of the things that people always kind of struggle with is putting on an image just to fit the corporate boxes. You know, they're like, oh, they're looking for a hard worker, so I gotta say I'm the hardest worker. Like, and don't get me wrong, you do they are looking for hard workers. They are looking for people that organize, problem solve. But also, I think that there is a little bit of this you have to pretend, and I don't think that is necessarily a good thing to do. Coming from a food service manager where I interviewed hundreds of people over years, is that you can tell when someone is not being genuine. Now, obviously, you have some people that are a little too honest in the interviews where they start talking about all their major flaws and all the things they need to work on, which you don't want to do that. But I do think being true to yourself and having a little bit of honesty of like, hey, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, I think makes you a little bit more real. And I think that's something that, at least for me, when I was a manager and I was hiring people, I appreciated that more than someone who was just trying to just say whatever they could to fit the boxes and to get the job. Because I want to be able to tell in that interview who you are as a person and what do you stand for. I think the best way to do that is to show a little bit of who you are. Now, obviously, the interview process is stressful. So the biggest thing I gotta say to you guys is don't overcomplicate it. And the biggest thing that you can, the biggest thing that I always thought about before interviews was that no matter how this ends up, the interview is going to start, it's going to go, and it's going to end, and I'm going to walk out of here. And so no matter what, it's not in your hands. All you can do is show what you have, present yourself in a good and professional way, and it's all in their hands. So the pressure isn't on you. The pressure is on them to hire you. Now, the next question I've gotten is, what type of degree do you have, and what degree do you recommend to become a data analyst? So for me personally, I have a bachelor's of science in mathematics with a concentration in statistics. And for my college that I went to, we did not have a data analytics specific college degree. Now, I know there are colleges out there now that have a data science, data analytics focused bachelor's course. So I think that obviously if you're starting from brand new, you're going into college, that's definitely the route you want to take. You want to become a data analyst. But outside of that, I think for someone like me who went through a mathematics course or a mathematics curriculum, I do think that probably did set me up a little bit better for success because our whole program is structured around solving problems. Now, obviously, there are different types of problems. They're not necessarily the types of problems that correlate directly into the companies, but I think a lot of the majors that are out there outside of mathematics are not as problem solving specifically problem solving with numbers and data. So I think that definitely gave me an advantage in working with quantitative numbers and quantitative data. I do think people that are a little bit more, whether it's business majors, finance majors, accounting majors, I think those are a little bit stronger when it comes to qualitative and quantitative balance because obviously there's a little bit of structure there where you're not just working just with numbers, you're working on problem solving across a different industry. So I do think for the people that are out there with business, finance, or even like sociology, psychology, where it's more that qualitative type of problem solving, I do think that, like I said, data analysis is problem solving, and problem solving is happening across all different types of industries. So I think if you are in a major where you are focusing on solving problems, whether it's qualitative data or quantitative data, I think will give you an upper hand. Okay, so I think this is another big question I think people have a lot is, what is the first technical skill that I should start with? And I've wrestled with answering this question for a while because obviously there is a lot of technical skills that are out there. And I think for me, and the reason why, if you will go look at my channel, the first technical skill that I'm choosing to focus on to master is Excel. And the reason why I think Excel should be the first one is because it is a widely ranged use tool. A lot of businesses and a lot of companies have it because it's such a common tool to be able to get. And you can use it for almost every level of the data analysis process, from the gathering stage, the cleaning, the structuring, the analysis, and the visualization. And you can use that for not just analysis, data analysis, you can use it in accounting, in finance, in business. So if data analysis doesn't work out for you, you already have a skill that can translate to other fields. And I think that is important overall, is to start with a more general skill set and then work your way towards a specific one. So for me personally, I would recommend Excel. I know SQL is probably the one that people have in mind most often right after that for data analysis, because obviously when you're working with big data where it's a large amount of data, you're going to be using structured query language more than you are Excel, which is mostly spreadsheets, which is, it still can be big data, but it's not the same as when you're using SQL. So I would say SQL is a good number two. But I do think that in terms of looking at the big picture, what you're going to get your most bang for your buck is going to be a common tool like Excel. I hope that these questions were some of the ones that you guys were looking answers for, and I hope that the answers that I give were clear. If you guys have any more questions, or you guys have any questions about the ones that I answered today, please leave them down in the comments below. If you guys want specific information from me, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, reach out to me on Instagram. I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you again, guys, for joining me. See you guys in the next video.